Alright, let's do a few experiments here. So I have this resistor hooked up in series like before, so it's limiting the current. If I have a dead short, the resistor is going to limit the current to about 0.5 amp. Alright. So, now typically that's the condition that you'll be in. There's going to be some kind of dead short, and you can limit the resistance right out of the power right out of the transformer and go down and find it. But let's say you're at the thermostat and you just want to connect this across different pins to see where your short might be. Maybe the air handler is in a super hard to get to place and you just want to see where is the short. Now you can try ohming out wires, but sometimes that can get tricky, especially with things backfeeding and kind of throwing off your resistance and things like that. So what would happen if you had this just connecting like R and Y together, R and G? In other words, what would happen if you were to send power to something like a relay, power through this? So let's look at what would happen. So if I take this and connect it to this relay, now you see it's making that god-awful noise, and that's because we are dropping voltage over here, and so what this relay is seeing is going to be a lot less than 24. We got 12. Well, I'm not making good connection there, but anyway, it's 12. Now what's going on is the coil's not getting full power, so it's attempting to pull in the contacts, which happens initially fine until they get close and the spring tension gets tougher, and then it gets thrown back up. And so this is probably happening around 60 times a second. Now what you'll see though is that your current, because you're going through two loads, is going to be less than 0.5 amp. So if you see this, you're not dealing with a dead short, you're probably just dealing with something in the circuit being energized. So anyways, oops, hang on. And try to get that plunger to go down if I can get it. There we go. Okay, so it's locked now. I just gave it a little momentum to help it seat. So now we're probably, because the hold-in current is not going to be as much as the pull-in current, we've got a little more voltage there. Because we don't have quite the drop, but alright, that keeps coming off. But you'll see, even if the relay or whatever activates, you're still going to deal with reduced amperage. So that's one thing that you'll notice if you're measuring amperage on this, to see what's going through the circuit. Now, there was a comment about using a capacitor instead of resistors, and I think it was 600A that mentioned that, but that's a really great point. So capacitors, they will act as resistors just based on the way they interact with the AC sine wave. So I've got a few capacitors here, and this is actually, let me set this up right here. Leave my hands free. Let's get that out of the way, and this out of the way. So I've got these capacitors right here set up in parallel, so what we have total is 90 microfarads. So what happens when we connect this across? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the resistor out of the circuit, and well, just to set it up the same, we'll go ahead and short this out. So this is shorted out at the heat pump. And then we take this and use this in place of that resistor as a current limiter. So initially you have a pretty big spike of current, but then as you can see it does settle out. And I haven't had these on for very long, but a lot of times capacitors are really good at limiting current without getting hot, so that would be one advantage. But of course that's pretty big and bulky compared to just a little power resistor or something like that. And you might be able to get a smaller 100 microfarad, but you would definitely want it to be able to handle the current. If you're going to use like a small electrolytic, you're probably going to smoke it. But anyways, that is another way to limit the current on a dead short, so that you can go through and find where it's at. So if we clamp this yellow, we're going to see our 800 milliamps right here, because our short is in the yellow, and then of course there's no amperage anywhere else. So anyways, just a few other experiments I wanted to do on short circuits and demonstrate a few things. But anyway, hope that helps. So this will be part 2, and who knows, maybe part 3 come along at some point.